Trains, stabbing, and child labor. That is what Assassin's Creed Syndicate has on offer. My name is Sysnax, and I want to tell you why I found this game worth exploring. So, welcome to Pixel Passport. As my backlog is already longer than my probable life expectancy, I usually give bargain bin games a pass. However, Syndicate was one that I just couldn't ignore, even if I kept forgetting about it. Few games share its setting and I had to try it for myself. Now, having played and finished the game, I can attest that it is indeed worth playing. Not only if you're a fan of the franchise, but also if you just like being a tourist in video games. Syndicate takes place in Victorian London in the 1860s and follows a pair of siblings, Jacob and Evie Fry. They both get introduced at the start of the game as fledgling assassins as they each take on their own mission, with Jacob going out to kill a Templar whilst Evie stealthily infiltrates a facility. You get to hit the ground running as soon as you get to London. There you have the choice to play as either of the siblings. You only get locked to one or the other during certain missions. They are pretty much just an aesthetic choice though, so I mostly stuck with the one that didn't look like a deranged homeless man. Though, to be fair, towards the end of the game some of the customization options you unlock do make him look fairly dapper, but at least their voice acting is good and they are quite enjoyable. The dynamic that the siblings have in some scenes is downright charmingly dorky, and so is Mr. Green, when he isn't busy being a space-time paradox. This game introduces levels for enemies to somewhat show what the intended order of progression is, but those do hardly anything if you play right. Really, they mostly serve to just annoy you. All it does is beef up their damage and make some of your already pitifully measly arsenal useless. At least throwing knives are almost always functional, but doing the side objectives is still a good way of getting your bearings of London. They are scattered evenly, with one major objective in each little zone. They have you take your time and examine the area you are in, though I do recommend you remove the mini-map as you play, as it's cluttered with collectibles and will, quite possibly, irritate you. There isn't much to interact with on the map outside of missions, so you're left with just collecting. Some of the collectibles do give you something useful, but it's not worth leaving the map on just for those. Even if you're prone to getting really lost, just open the full map, leave a waypoint, and see what you can notice along the way. Otherwise, all you will be seeing is this. That's not a good look. Besides, it's well worth looking. For starters, there's a lot of animals and kids around, making the population a bit more diverse than it had been in previous titles. They could probably let themselves do that now since you can't just stab anyone anymore, though do be careful with bombs and guns as they do still definitely work. There's also a ton of detail in the environment itself, from storefronts littering the streets to trash and items thrown around the place. You can find a lot. I kept finding soap advertising. A lot of soap advertising, probably meant for Jacob. And what's even better is that the detail is supported, at times, by rather great lighting. There can be some inconsistencies here or there, but as a whole it works well towards setting the mood of the game. It was a little different than what I expected going in, but it ended up being really good anyway. The golden hour lighting made me wish the game had a photo mode at times, or at least a first-person camera, even if when standing still. And being able to turn off the heads-up display entirely would have been great too, especially when you get to the top of a tower to synchronize, and you can't actually turn off the hood. That's the most annoying feature actually. The fact that you couldn't turn it off ruined one of the best parts of the series. You'd like to see the view, wouldn't you? But that wasn't enough to ruin going around the city. Some of my favorite places to explore were the back streets and side alleys. Quite a lot of the city's character comes out there. A lot of them have stalls set up where they sell wares, though sadly you can't buy anything but consumables from a few select vendors. There are also kids playing and people just chilling out and loitering. If you want to sit around and soak in the atmosphere, parks and pubs are also excellent choices. You can just chill and watch the NPCs do their thing, drinking, trying to take a single photo for days, or playing music. Speaking of music, there is some in the game. I had noticed the slider early on, but never really heard it anywhere but the parks, so I was a bit surprised when I noticed the music towards the end of the game. It's actually fairly good, nothing that will stick in your mind once you're done playing, and it's quite possible it was always there and it just took me looking for it to notice. But it does complement the action when it does kick in. But if you feel inclined, you can turn the music off completely and put on some of your own, or listen to a podcast or three. The game is perfectly suited for that. You can run around and stab your way to 100% completion while listening to your favorite people talking. I highly recommend listening to my boy Clems, but if you got any suggestions of your own, drop them down below and I'll check them out. If you decide that you'd rather have none, you'll just get a better chance to appreciate the game's ambience. It's honestly pretty superb.
Looks like trouble is brewing.
I definitely get a kick out of walking around and listening to the clatter of horses and the hum of people going about the city, though there aren't that many people at some times. And speaking of people, before you go around tearing up the town, go talk to all the people at least once. There are some side missions with local famous people like Marx and Dickens, but there are also associate activities that unlock new possibilities in the city. The rule of thumb is typically that if you don't know the name, they're gonna unlock a new feature of the game, otherwise you're gonna play a mission.
They look like common robberies at first, but these perpetrators have all claimed to have been under the influence of some supernatural power.
Most of them are pretty cool though, so it's worth checking out those as well. You can actually notice some of those unlockable activities well before you can interact with them, so don't be a muppet like I was, thinking that's a part of a story mission and not doing anything about them. Just talk to everybody at least once, trust me. I had really considered dropping the game after liberating all of the boroughs, because at that point I felt like I had had enough of the game. It all felt samey and pretty copy-based. However, I pushed myself to get past the one mission that was holding me up in the main storyline, mostly by completely ignoring the optional objectives and just going to town with murder. Seriously, fuck non-lethality tasks in games where there's hardly any non-lethal options. Just ignore those objectives. What followed after that was a wholly satisfying assassination. I got to go to a theater and murder stab my way up the stage to off my target in front of everyone. Spoilers! After he set the whole place on fire. Get a nice escape sequence as well, which was cool. So, when you start feeling the fatigue set in, go finish a sequence. They're all pretty short to be honest, and a bit more varied than the regular tasks. Some even offer challenges on locations you won't find elsewhere in the game. The sanatorium was one of my favorite locations personally. Just a word of caution, don't bother going for 100% sync in all of the missions on your first time through. The reward for it is measly and a lot of them just don't feel thought out at all. As I said, especially the stealth and non-lethality ones. By the way, this stealth game has finally added the stealth button. All it really does is makes you crouch and put on your hood. It's mostly kinda broken, so unless you're hiding behind a mountain of stuff, you'll be spotted real quick. At least it feels like you're trying to hide, unlike in the previous games where sneaking was just straight up fucked. Though I still can't figure out if I like that you don't have your hood on at all times or not. Just do the sensible thing and stack up to your neck and throwing knives and bullets and play the game as a third-person shooter. That fixes pretty much everything. There is a story that goes along with the missions, but it definitely isn't the strongest in the franchise.
I don't want to lose my bosses.
I can recall the general beats, but it's mostly just hunting down the motley crew of bad guys who each run their own industry in the city. It's also kind of funny, the two of them can take over the whole entirety of London by themselves, pretty much. The whole story is a bit of a meme.
For the same reason, I'd do anything.
The writers try to do a thing where they make you question whether what you're doing is good or not, and if it benefits the city. But they try to do that with every single target, and most of them have the flimsiest excuses. And the main bad guy is just a straight up cartoon goofball, mustache and everything. He'd wax poetic about doing good by the city and then just straight up shoots a guy for knocking on his door.
Mr. Starrick!
I told you not to disturb me!
Yeah, you can trust him to be a good bloke. But if you're in the mood for some virtual touring and have some spare bits of coin to spend, do check out Syndicate. It might not be the best game in the franchise, but it certainly does have its charms. I'll definitely remember it fondly now that I've beaten it. The final assassination might just be one of my favorites in the franchise, actually.
You cannot maintain this!
If for nothing else, just try it out to get a chance to stroll around Victorian London. There aren't many games that let you do that. But maybe try to get it on sale, unless you really want to go climb Big Ben. I would give Assassin's Creed Syndicate a bronze ticket. If you have any places you think are worth exploring, write them down below, and I'll check them out. I always love exploring new locations. Now, if you're still here and looking for a recommendation as to what else to explore, I would suggest you try out the rest of the franchise. Most of it plays the same, so it's just a matter of picking your favorite setting. One of the best places to start would be Assassin's Creed 2's Italy. Or, if you just want more of London, you can check out Vampire. It gives you less freedom to explore, but it makes up for it with thick atmosphere and some potentially interesting decision making. And if you play the newer Assassin's Creed games and like those better, definitely check out Witcher 3 and its expansions. It's stunning and never ceases to amaze me. Anyway, thank you for watching Pixel Passport. Leave a like and I hope to see you again next time. Cheerio!